Unlock 7 miraculous mysteries of the Bible. Discover God's incredible plan for redemption. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, a voice echoing through antiquity began to weave a narrative of divine promise and destiny. It was a time when the land of Ur of the Chaldeans thrived, a bustling hub illuminated not only by the glimmer of its temples but by the hearts of its people, whose worship echoed towards the heavens. Amid them stood a man named Abraham, a prosperous herdsman whose lineage honored the gods revered by his ancestors. Yet an insatiable yearning stirred within him, one that beckoned him toward deeper encounters with the divine. One fateful morn, as the sun kissed the horizon and cast a golden glow upon the merchant-strewn streets, the atmosphere shifted. Abraham heard a voice, a declaration that rippled through his thoughts and senses like a sudden wind: "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you." The divine had called him, a command that seemed to pierce through the chaos of daily life, igniting hope within him, a magnificent vision of becoming a great nation unfolding like a tapestry before his eyes. Nevertheless, the weight of this divine call hovered heavily over Abraham's heart. Would he forsake the familiar comforts of Ur, the nurturing bonds of his family, and the sacred traditions that shaped his very identity? Memories of men who once clung stubbornly to their physical security and earthly heritage, leaving behind the whispers of divine promise, echoed in his mind. In that moment, he felt their collective weight as they bore down upon his spirit. In quiet resolution, Abraham sought the Lord's affirmation: "O Lord, if this is truly your call, grant me the courage to step forward, and let your promise be made clear." As the sky darkened, the stars began to illuminate the night, twinkling with an intensity that spoke to his very soul. Could it be that this celestial demonstration was the assurance he sought? In that realization, he sensed that faith was not merely an acceptance of the unknown, but rather an active step into the promise. Gathering his beloved wife Sarai and his loyal nephew Lot, Abraham made his declaration: they would leave Ur. With their worldly possessions packed and their hearts ignited, he led them in a worshipful acknowledgement of Yahweh, gratitude spilling forth as they embarked on this sacred journey. As the caravan set forth over arid lands, the promise of a new destiny lingered in their hearts like the flicker of a candle in encroaching darkness. Challenges soon surfaced like shadows cast before the dawn, a stark reminder of the journey ahead. Doubts nibbled at his resolve. Would the land yield to them? Would they prosper and fulfill the divine promise of becoming a great nation? Straddling the precipice of the unknown, Abraham stood with the deep, twin edges of faith and uncertainty, each weighing against the other. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As he approached the borders of Canaan, the land whispered of ancient journeys, divine counsel, and miracles held within the fabric of faith. Just beyond the horizon lay the promise that flickered, tantalizing yet elusive. Yet, the uncertainties loomed larger with each step. Would this land indeed embrace them? The deeper mystery of God's plan stirred anew within him, igniting a fervent hope that prepared him for the unfolding narrative of redemption crafted by the hands of the Almighty. As Abraham and his company traversed the parched roads leading into Canaan, the sun bore down with an intensity that mirrored the weight of his thoughts. Each step upon the foreign soil echoed with the promise of God, yet the shadows of doubt lingered like clouds storming on the horizon. Abraham sought solace in prayer, his heart lifting towards the heavens that had unveiled the mystery of his divine calling. Upon their arrival in the land of Canaan, they pitched their tents near the great oak of Moreh, and there the Lord spoke anew, affirming his covenant with Abraham. "To your offspring, I will give this land," the Lord declared, solidifying the vision that had begun within him. In awe and reverence, Abraham built an altar to the Lord, pouring out gratitude for the sacred promise bestowed upon him. His heart swelled with joy, knowing that he stood upon land that would one day witness the birth of many nations. Yet, even amid the promise, a great famine swept through the region. Fear crept into the hearts of the clan as they faced scarcity and want. Abraham, feeling the pressure of survival, made a decision that would alter the course of his family's journey. With heavy hearts, he turned his eyes towards Egypt, hoping to find sustenance in that foreign land. As they approached Egypt, fear gripped Abraham once more. What if the Egyptians took note of Sarai's beauty and claimed her for themselves? To protect his beloved wife, Abraham concocted a plan, stating, "You are my sister," believing this deception would shield them from potential harm. Sarai, ever faithful, complied, firmly trusting Abraham to guide them through this uncertain terrain. Upon entering Egypt, word of Sarai's beauty reached the ears of Pharaoh's officials. The king summoned her to his palace, taking her into his household, and showering gifts upon Abraham in exchange for her presence. The weight of betrayal settled upon Abraham's heart, yet he could not show his fear that had driven him to deceive rather than rely solely upon the promise of God. But the Lord was gracious and quick to act on behalf of Sarai, afflicting Pharaoh and his household with plagues. Sensing the divine hand against him, Pharaoh summoned Abraham in a fit of rage, demanding to know, "Why did you say she was your sister? You have brought great trouble upon my land." In that moment, Abraham confronted his own failing, realizing that the plans of man could not outrun the purposes of the Almighty. As he departed Egypt, burdened by both guilt and revelation, the Lord's steadfast promise surged anew within him. Returning to Canaan with Sarai still by his side, they sought refuge in the land that had been ordained for them. It was here Abraham faced a new challenge, as strife arose between his herdsmen and those of Lot. The land could not sustain them both. Abraham, wise and humble, suggested that they part ways. "Let there be no strife between you and me," he said earnestly to Lot. "If you go left, I will go right, or if you go right, I will go left." This selfless act would further reveal the heart of Abraham, a man who sought peace in humility rather than contention. Lot chose the lush plains of Jordan, settling among the city of Sodom, which brimmed with abundance yet harbored great wickedness. Abraham, though separated, walked in faith, trusting that God's promise would endure through the generations. As he gazed upon the vast land laid before him, the Lord spoke again, saying, "Look around from where you are, to the north and south, to the east and west. All the land that you see, I will give to you and your offspring forever." In that moment, the eternal scope of God's sovereign plan for Abraham expanded, promising blessings beyond earthly understanding. Yet little did Abraham know, trials and tribulations awaited his faithful lineage, a pathway lined with challenges meant to solidify their identity as a chosen people. The echoes of doubt would clash against the clarion call of faith, leading him and his descendants deeper into the sacred mystery of God's covenant promise. Thus, uncertain of the journey ahead, Abraham sought to understand the depths of God's purpose, knowing full well that the unfolding narrative of redemption was only just beginning, and the true nature of God's sovereign plan was far more profound than he could fathom. As days turned into weeks, the sun set low upon the fields of Canaan, casting long shadows against the hills. Abraham's heart, though heavy with recent burdens, remained steadfast in faith. He wandered the land, contemplating the depths of the covenant spoken by the Lord. Each step felt like a divine orchestration, nudging him forward into the unfolding purposes of God. One evening, as the stars filled the sky like scattered jewels, Abraham was drawn to the solitude of the night. He set up his altar, the smoke of his offerings rising heavenward, where the Most High dwelled. In this sacred space, he cried out, "O Lord, how will I know that I shall inherit this land?" His voice trembled, echoing the fears gnawing at his spirit. In response, the Lord spoke, "Bring me a heifer, a goat, and a ram, each 3 years old, along with a dove and a young pigeon." Startled yet obedient, Abraham gathered the animals as the Lord commanded. With an unwavering heart, he prepared them for sacrifice, cutting the larger ones in two and laying the halves opposite each other, while the birds remained intact. As twilight merged into darkness, a deep slumber fell upon Abraham, and behold, a dread and great darkness descended upon him. In that moment of vulnerability, the voice of God pierced the silence, proclaiming, "Know for certain that for 400 years your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and they will be enslaved and mistreated there." Abraham shivered at the foretelling, his lineage destined for trials, yet the promise did not wane. But I will punish the nation they serve as slaves, and afterward, they will come out with great possessions, the Lord assured him, renewing hope amid the harbinger of hardship. For you, Abraham, will go to your ancestors in peace and be buried at a good old age. As the sun dipped below the horizon, a smoking fire pot and a blazing torch passed between the pieces of the sacrifice, signifying the Lord's irrevocable covenant with Abraham. In that ancient act, God sealed his promise, laying the foundation for a legacy that would transcend generations. Abraham's heart soared as he understood the weight of divine grace. It was not merely land but a nation, a people chosen to reflect his glory. Days turned into months, and as Abraham dwelled in the land, the uncertainty loomed larger. Sarai grew restless. Her heart, too, yearned for the son promised to them. "Behold, the Lord has prevented me from bearing children," she lamented one day. In her desperation for a child, she urged Abraham to take Hagar, her maidservant, believing this would be the means of God's promise fulfilled. Caught between hope and doubt, Abraham acquiesced. He took Hagar as his wife, and soon after, she conceived. The birth of Ishmael brought both a moment of joy and a cascade of conflict within the household. Sarai's heart twisted with jealousy, and the tender bonds of relationships frayed under the weight of disappointment and ambition. Yet amid this turmoil, the Lord's voice could still be heard, guiding Abraham back to trust. "I will establish my covenant with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you," he declared. This reaffirmation stirred confusion yet held promise. Abraham, now more than ever, wrestled with the implications of God's unfolding plan. Through the trials of the past and present, Abraham stood poised at a precipice of destiny, learning that faith was not merely the absence of doubt but an active engagement with the Lord's unmistakable sovereignty. The air grew thick with divine tension. Each heartbeat echoed with anticipation, knowing the revelation of God's purpose loomed closer. Little did he know, the journey ahead would wrestle with kingdoms of man and clamor for the faith of all nations to emerge from his lineage. The unfolding tapestry of God's sovereign plan hung before him, woven intricately by the threads of faith, failure, and divine promise, awaiting full disclosure. And it came to pass, in the fullness of time, the Lord appeared to Abraham again, in the oak grove of Mamre. As he sat at the entrance of his tent, the heat of the day upon him, Abraham lifted his eyes and saw 3 men standing nearby. When he saw them, he ran to meet them and bowed low to the ground. He welcomed them, saying, "My Lord, if I have found favor in your eyes, please do not pass your servant by. Let a little water be brought, and then you may all wash your feet and rest under this tree." And they answered him, "So be it. Do as you have said." Abraham quickly hurried into the tent to Sarah. "Get 3 seahs of fine flour and knead it and bake some bread." He ran to the herd and chose a tender calf, giving it to a servant, who hurried to prepare it. So, Abraham brought the prepared food and set it before them, and he stood near them under the tree as they ate. The men asked him, "Where is your wife Sarah?" "She is in the tent," Abraham replied. And one of them said, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife will have a son." Now Sarah was listening at the entrance of the tent, and she laughed to herself in disbelief, saying, "After I am worn out and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure?" The Lord asked Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Will I really have a child, now that I am old?' Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son." Then Sarah, afraid, denied it, saying, "I did not laugh." But he said, "No, but you did laugh." When the men rose to leave, they looked down toward Sodom, and Abraham walked along with them to see them on their way. Then the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? For Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him." The hearts of the righteous stirred within him as they faced the evils of Sodom and Gomorrah. "If I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom," he declared, "I will spare the whole place for their sake." But Abraham, filled with awe and humility, approached God with reverence, saying, "What if the number of the righteous is 5 less than 50? Will you destroy the whole city because of 5 people? And the Lord replied, If I find 45 there, I will not destroy it. With each plea, Abraham's heart beat with the rhythm of intercession, and he lowered the number with wisdom and courage. What if there are 40? Or 30? Or 20? Or even 10? God's patience shone even brighter with every inquiry, revealing his merciful intent to seek the few who would be faithful among the wicked. Through this discourse, the faith of Abraham blossomed like a flower unveiled before the sun, reflecting the beauty of God's grace and mercy. And when Abraham had finished speaking, the Lord went his way, and Abraham returned home. Contemplating all that had transpired, Abraham realized that even in hesitation, God calls his people to a greater understanding of his sovereign purposes. He wrestled with the knowledge of impending judgment and the promise of redemption intertwined. Yet amidst this heavy burden, the essence of hope lingered, an echo of a coming Savior whose light would shine amidst the darkness, transcending every generation. The twinkle of stars in the heavens reminded him that God's plan had not only begun with him but would usher in a glorious future beyond comprehension. Little did he know, a path was being carved through faith and obedience, leading toward a profound mystery that involved nations yet to come, each heartbeat resonating with the promise, for through Abraham and his descendants, all families of the earth will be blessed. What awaited him in the unfolding saga of this divine narrative? And the Lord sent his messengers toward Sodom, and their feet were swift with purpose. The cities of Sodom and Gomorrah lay before them, shrouded in darkness and weighed down by sin. As they entered the city, the wickedness rose like smoke to the heavens, a stench of rebellion against the Most High. In the city square, they encountered Lot, Abraham's nephew, who had chosen to dwell among the people of the plains. Lot, seeing them, rose to meet them and bowed with urgency, saying, My lords, please turn aside to your servant's house and spend the night, and wash your feet. Then you may rise early and go on your way. They answered, We will stay tonight in the square. But Lot's heart was grieved, knowing the peril that awaited them in the streets. He pressed them strongly, and they turned aside and entered his house. In Lot's dwelling, he prepared a feast for them, baking unleavened bread, and they ate. But before they lay down to rest, men from every part of the city, both young and old, surrounded the house, calling out to Lot, Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, that we may know them. Lot went out, and he shut the door behind him, pleading with them, I beg you, my brothers, do not act wickedly. Behold, I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you may do to them as you please, only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof. The men answered, Stand back. This man came here to sojourn, and he would play the judge? Now we will deal worse with you than with them. They pressed hard against Lot, and they drew near to break the door down, but the men inside reached out and pulled Lot into the house, shutting the door. Then they struck the men at the entrance of the house with blindness, so that they could not find the door. The angels turned to Lot and said, Have you anyone else here? Sons-in-law, your sons, your daughters? Bring them out of this place. For we are about to destroy this city, because the outcry against its people has become great before the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law who were to marry his daughters, saying, Get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city. But they thought he was jesting. When the morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, Arise, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be swept away in the punishment of the city. And while he lingered, the men seized him and his wife and his 2 daughters by the hand, the Lord being merciful to him. They brought him out and set him outside the city. When they had brought them out, one of them said, Flee for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley, flee to the hills, lest you be swept away. Lot said to them, Oh, no, my lords. Behold, your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have shown me great kindness in saving my life, but I cannot escape to the hills, lest the disaster overtake me and I die. Behold, this city is near enough to flee to, and it is a small one. Let me escape there, is it not a small one? And my life will be saved. The angel answered, Behold, I grant you this favor also, that I will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Escape there quickly, for I can do nothing till you arrive there." Therefore, the name of the city was called Zor. As the sun rose upon the earth when Lot entered Zor, the Lord rained sulfur and fire upon Sodom and Gomorrah out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all the valley, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and what grew on the ground. But Lot's wife, behind him, looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Thus, the judgment of the Lord fell upon the cities, a divine act beckoning the hearts of men to heed his word. Even in destruction, God's purpose was woven with mercy, as he sought to preserve a remnant, and so it would come to pass, that from the ashes of Sodom and Gomorrah, a sobering truth would rise, a reminder of the divine promise of salvation amidst judgment, for in this story, hidden within tragedy, lay a profound mystery. For what the Lord destroys, he can also restore. The legacy of faithful Abraham would continue, propelling toward a future hope where even the darkest places could not escape the light of redemption. And it came to pass, when Lot had entered Zor and the smoke of the cities ascended like the smoke of a furnace, that he looked upon the desolation left in the wake of the Lord's judgment. The land, once fertile and thriving, now lay barren, a testament to the wrath of God poured out upon a people who had turned from his ways. Lot, trembling at the sight of destruction, turned to his daughters and said, "The Lord has been merciful to us, we must seek his guidance in this desolate place." His heart filled with both gratitude and sorrow, knowing what had been lost and yet holding fast to the hope of life and promise. As he settled in Zor, the days grew long, and the weight of grief pressed upon him. He spoke with his daughters, "Let us not dwell in the darkness of what was, let us seek to build a future under the hand of the Almighty, who delivered us from ruin." But amidst these words, doubt danced in their hearts, for they had seen the sorrows of the past and feared the emptiness of the future. One night, while the moon cast its silver light over the desolation, Lot was troubled in spirit. He went out to a nearby hill where he could see the remains of Sodom, and he prayed earnestly, "O Lord, how shall I fill the void left in this land? How shall lineage proceed from a remnant so small? Is there a plan for those who remain?" Then, in the stillness of the night, the Lord spoke to Lot through a whisper of wind, saying, "Fear not, for I am with you. From your lineage shall arise a nation, and through your descendants, I shall bring forth deliverance for the world." As dawn approached, Lot returned to his daughters, emboldened by the promise he received. "The Lord has spoken to me. We shall not be lost to despair, our future is in his hands." His daughters listened, yet uncertainty lingered in them like a shadow, yet their faith began to stir at the remembrance of the mercies they had witnessed. They encouraged their father, saying, "May we seek a husband for ourselves. For even in this forsaken place, the Lord can provide." Lot took courage from this and began to speak of the ways of the Lord, teaching them about the covenant made with their forefather Abraham, about faithfulness, and the blessings promised to those who trust in the Almighty. Days turned into weeks, and one evening, as they gathered together in prayer, a stranger approached the gates of Zor. He was a traveler, seeking shelter and sustenance. Lot welcomed him with outstretched arms, sensing in his spirit that this encounter bore significance. The traveler spoke with wisdom, sharing tales of lands beyond Zor, of hope and redemption, igniting a spark in Lot's daughters. They felt the breath of possibility as he recounted how the God of their father Abraham was known in many lands, and how his mercies extended to all who sought him. And so, their hearts were filled with courage, and they decided to prepare a feast in celebration of new beginnings, inviting the traveler to stay and witness the goodness that could arise from the ashes of despair. But unbeknownst to them, the Lord was weaving a tapestry of destiny, a design hidden from the eyes of men. For in Lot's daughters, the seeds of a holy lineage were to be planted, a lineage that would bear forth nations and embody the divine promise of redemption. Thus, as the evening drew close, and laughter began to fill the air of Zor, the shadows of uncertainty danced at the edges. And from the depths of calamity, God was setting the stage for a revelation yet unseen, embodying the truth that from destruction springs forth life, and in every trial lies a journey toward divinely orchestrated deliverance. For even through ashes, the Lord crafts his restoration, was the whisper of the night, as hope began to unfurl amid the haunting echoes of a past laid to rest. What would blossom from the hearts opened wide beneath a sky of stars? Thus, the mystery of his sovereign plan remained, leading ever forward. As the dawn broke over Zor, the anguished echoes of the past began to meet the promise of the new day. Lot rose early, compelled by a stirring in his heart and urgency that beckoned him to seek the face of God. He gathered his daughters and proclaimed, "Let us give thanks and seek the favor of our Lord, for he is our deliverer, and his plans are unfathomable." With renewed resolve, they prepared an altar in the open air, a place of communion where they could present their gratitude for the mercies bestowed upon them. Lot lifted his voice, invoking the name of the Lord, "Most High God, we are but a remnant of the faithfulness you have shown. Guide our steps, that we may walk in the light of your promises." As Lot prayed, the Lord's presence enveloped them, and a gentle wind brushed through the grove. In that moment, something miraculous stirred within the hearts of his daughters, for God was igniting within them a thirst for purpose, a longing to fulfill the promise laid upon their father. "Father," the elder daughter spoke almost timidly, "we have heard tales of how the merciful God of our forefathers provided for them. Shall we seek to be vessels for his plan, that from us might flow a generation that honors him?" Lot gazed at her, seeing in her eyes a reflection of faith ignited by despair, and he nodded solemnly, "Indeed, daughters. It shall be as the Lord leads us." Their resolve solidified, they ventured out into the barren land, carrying sweet fruits and grains for sustenance, seeking companionship for the journey of renewal. It was on the outskirts of Zor that they encountered the remnants of humanity, the scattered tribes and wandering souls who had also felt the sting of loss. There, the elder daughter spoke boldly, "We seek men of integrity, men who honor the Almighty, that we might be united in purpose and faith." The people listened, intrigued by the sisters' words filled with hope. Shockingly, it was not long before prospects began to appear. As bonds formed, whispers of the God of Abraham began to echo through the hills, calling others to witness the mercy even amid desolation. But Lot's heart was heavy with the weight of memories, those visions of destruction still vivid in his mind. Often he would stand upon that ridge, gazing out over the remnants of Sodom and Gomorrah, his spirit wrestling with the shadows of the past. Every burning star that fell reminded him of the lives lost. One night, as he stood in prayer, the night sky filled with the brilliance of stars, and the Lord broke through to him once more. "Lot," the voice resonated deeply, "do not let your heart waver. For from this remnant, I will bring forth blessings that shall touch nations. Your daughters shall be the vessels of a new covenant, and through them, my plans shall unfold." Awakening to the voice of his Lord, Lot returned to his daughters, his eyes burning with fervor. "Fear not, for our God is preparing a way. The unions you seek are not mere happenstance, they are woven into his glorious design." Emboldened by their father's words, the daughters poured themselves into the relationships blossoming around them. The Spirit of God fueled their progress, and as the days turned into seasons, the seed of revival took root, yet, a deeper mystery remained unspoken. What future awaited the lineages formed in this forsaken soil? What great works would arise from the trials of their past? God's purposes were still hidden, a veil over divine intentions, waiting to be unfurled at the appointed time. As the winds of change began to whisper life into the desolation, the steadfast heart of Lot recognized a truth: the Lord's ways were higher than their understanding, and in seeking him diligently, they were partaking in a profound narrative of redemption, a tapestry, intricate and divine. Thus, as hope began to blossom anew in the shadows of despair, the question lingered thick in the air: what might transpire when the remnants of faith are ignited by the Spirit of the Almighty? And this enigma stirred, ever drawing nearer to fulfillment, as the dawn of God's redemptive plan lingered on the horizon. As the seasons changed and the blossoms of faith took root in the hearts of Lot's daughters, an air of expectancy enveloped the land surrounding Zor. The gatherings grew, and the stories of the God of Abraham flowed like sweet water among the people. Lot watched with wonder as the remnants of a broken community began to find strength in unity. One evening, as the sun dipped low beyond the horizon, casting a warm glow over the hills, the daughters called upon the gathered tribes. Their voices echoed above the gentle whispers of the wind. "Hear us, people of this land. Let us not forget the ways of our God. He lifts up the humble and showers blessings upon those who seek him. Their words ignited a flame within those who listened. Among them rose a man named Amram, a descendant of the clan of Shem. He brought forth a bold declaration, saying, "We shall be as the stars in the sky, countless and bright. If our God is with us, who can stand against us?" Lot's heart swelled with joy. The remnants of his lineage were beginning to flourish, and the fear that once gripped him began to fade. Yet, a shadow loomed in the distance, a reminder of the trials endured, the memory of cities consumed by fire, the cries that fell silent in the wake of wrath. One night, as Lot lay restless on his mat, he felt the stirrings of the Lord's presence again envelop him. "Lot," the Lord spoke softly yet with authority, "fear not, for I am with you. The path ahead is veiled, but I shall reveal my purpose. It is through tribulation that I shall bring forth glory. Your daughters will proclaim my name, and their offspring shall lead many to righteousness." Awakening with newfound vigor, Lot rose at dawn and gathered his daughters. The Almighty speaks once more. He will bring forth his promises through you. Stir the hearts of this generation to rise and seek him fervently. Encouraged, the sisters spearheaded gatherings of worship and praise, calling all to witness the mighty works of the Lord. The people began to recognize the hand of God in the renewed life blossoming among them. Reports of healings and miracles began to ripple through the land, strengthening the threads of faith and unity. Yet amid this divine momentum, an unexpected visitor approached Lot one afternoon, a stranger shrouded in dust and weariness. He bowed low and spoke with trembling lips, "I come from the east, from the land of the Chaldeans. I bring news of a gathering storm, for the enemies of our God are rising anew. They seek to extinguish the light shining forth from this remnant." Lot felt a chill run through him. Murmurs of darkness had begun to encircle their newfound community. He turned to his daughters, who stood beside him, resolute. "The way forward may be fraught with trials, but our God is greater than our struggles. We must prepare in prayer and unity, for his plans shall not be thwarted." As they called upon the Lord, seeking his guidance, the shadows lengthened, and the fear of the hearts of the people began to brew. But as they prayed, a profound revelation dawned upon them. The elder daughter, her voice inspired by the Spirit, proclaimed, "What if our struggles are but a means to bring forth brighter stars? What if our deliverance is tied to the very trials we endure?" Lot and the gathered tribes pondered this mystery, their hearts thrumming with anticipation. Then, the voice of the Lord reverberated through their gathering, "Indeed, my ways are higher, in everything, let faith clothe you. Trust in my promises, for I will do a new thing. Fear not, for what is hidden shall soon be revealed." Thus, enveloped in divine urgency and spiritual revelations, they were set aflame with purpose, compelled to press forth in prayer, emboldened by the unfolding mystery of God's sovereign plan. And as twilight descended upon Zor, the question lingered in the hearts of all, what mighty works shall emerge from the ashes of struggle, and how will the seeds of faith grow when nourished by the light of God's promise? As dawn broke over Zor, the warmth of the sun poured blessings over the land, illuminating the faces of the faithful gathered there. Lot, strengthened by the nights of fervent prayer, led his daughters in a solemn assembly, calling the people together. "Brothers and sisters," he proclaimed, his voice ringing with authority, "come and hear the word of our God. For he has not abandoned us, indeed, he stirs within us a mighty purpose." Within the assembly was Amram, who had roused the hearts of the people before. He spoke now with earnestness, "Let us prepare our hearts. The Lord has promised not just deliverance, but transformation. We shall not cower in shadows but rise as an army under his banner of light." The people's spirit soared, and they began to recount the deeds of the Almighty, each story feeding the growing flame of faith. They spoke of Abraham, their father in faith, who trusted in the promises of God, and of Isaac, who bore the covenant upon his shoulders. Yet as their praises grew louder, so did the whispers of discontent from beyond the hills. The stranger from the east had been right. News spread that the kings of the surrounding territories were gathering their forces, emboldened by jealousy and fear of the revival happening among Lot's people. Plans were afoot to extinguish the light that now shone brightly in Zor. Lot sensed the impending storm. The charges of conflict loomed nearer like dark clouds across the horizon. When the daughters approached him, their brows furrowed with concern, Lot took a deep breath and spoke firmly, "We shall not be dismayed. Remember the God who delivered us from Sodom. He is the same who now dwells within us. We must stand firm in faith." The younger daughter, with courage welling in her heart, asked softly, "But what if our faith is put to the test? What if our God does not intervene as we hope?" Lot placed his hands upon her shoulders. "Even in trials, our God weaves a tapestry, rich with purpose. Recall how Joseph was sold, yet from that pit of despair, God lifted him to save many lives. Our struggles may yet birth miracles beyond our imagining." Encouraged, the daughters gathered the people to join in prayer, imploring the Almighty to shield them from the impending darkness. And as they prayed, a revelation gripped the heart of the assembly. What if our unity, our resilience, is what God desires in this hour? Suddenly, the ground trembled not with the coming footsteps of enemies, but with the very presence of God. The voice of the Lord thundered through the assembly, resonating deep within their hearts. "Fear not, O remnant of Abraham. I shall deliver you in ways unimagined. The enemies who rise against you shall falter, and through your faithfulness, the world shall marvel at my glory." With spirits ignited and determination renewed, Lot and his daughters led the congregation in an ancient hymn of praise. Their voices soared above the winds, weaving an anthem of defiance and hope. Our God reigns. He subdues the mighty and makes the impossible possible. Night fell upon the land, dark yet expectant. With vigilance, they kept watch, prepared for whatever lay ahead. Seated under the starlit sky, Lot turned to his daughters, his heart filled with pride and expectancy. "Remember this night, for it heralds the dawn of something great. When the sun arises, what wonders shall break forth from the trials we endure?" As the words echoed into the silence of the night, a hush fell over the gathered tribes, and they held their breath in anticipation, wondering what the Almighty had in store for them. What victory shall come from their collective faith, and what unforeseen path does the Lord carve through their trials? The air quivered with divine suspense, and all who listened could sense that the story was far from over. The dawn was yet to unveil the full measure of God's sovereign plan. And behold, with the dawn came a radiant light, washing away the gloom of the night, illuminating Zor with the promise of a new beginning. As the sun crested the horizon, there emerged a sense of divine expectancy in the hearts of Lot and his daughters, for their faith had been tested, yet not broken. The rumblings of conflict were near, but the Lord's assurances reverberated within them, a steadfast reminder of his unending grace and providence. Meanwhile, the kings of the surrounding lands had gathered their forces, their hearts ignited with pride and envy toward the remnants of faith flourishing in Zor. Their armies amassed like storm clouds on the horizon, yet even in the face of such formidable foes, Lot's faith shone brighter still. With the assembly gathered around him, Lot declared boldly, "Fear not, for our God fights for us. As he delivered Abraham and saved us from destruction, so he will deliver us again." His words fell upon the gathered faithful like cool water on parched soil. Amram stepped forward, his voice a clarion call. "We must not only seek deliverance but act with courage. Let us prepare ourselves for battle, not with weapons of war, but equipped with faith greater than mountains." The crowd stirred, their hearts igniting with hope and resolve. In that sacred moment, they fell to their knees, invoking the name of the Lord, a chorus of prayers rising like incense to the heavens. Lot led them in intercession, beseeching, "O Lord, shield us from the hands that seek to harm. Grant us strength to stand firm, that we may be a beacon to those still lost in darkness." Then the Lord responded, speaking as a whisper in a tempest yet understood by every soul present. "You are not alone, I am with you. What is impossible for man is within my power. Lift your eyes, see the horizon, for I will kindle a fire of revival, not just upon you, but through you for the nations." As the fervent prayers echoed, the heavens responded. A great wind stirred, rushing across the valley, the very breath of God sweeping through the assembly. The light grew brighter, and in an instant, they felt an invigorating presence, a holy assurance that the battle was the Lord's. With renewed vigor, the people stood. The cries of defiance resounded through the land, "Our God reigns. He will deliver." As they readied themselves, from the distance, a horn's sound grew clearer, a painful reminder of the advance of enemy armies, yet a bold resolve swept through them. They would not yield. As the enemies approached, darkening the sun's rays with their numbers, Lot and his daughters, alongside the faithful of Zor, remained steadfast. Line upon line, heart against heart, together we shall stand, Lot spoke, his voice calm like the rushing river that nourishes the land. Together, we are stronger. And in the midst of the clamor, a rumble echoed through the crowd, an advancing sound not of mere footsteps, but of a thunderous affirmation of divine sovereignty. The forces of darkness pressed in, yet as the two sides drew near, confusion seized the enemy ranks. At that moment, when doubt entered their hearts, the Lord caused a great panic, scattering their minds, and they turned upon one another in turmoil. The sons of Abraham raised their voices, proclaiming the victory that had been foretold. "Our Lord is a warrior, he fights for us." With unwavering courage, they charged forward, emboldened by the miraculous shift in their favor. In a blaze of divine might, God's people became agents of his wondrous deliverance, united under his banner of mercy. Lot beheld the unfolding of God's glorious plan, a potent reminder that faith when coupled with divine purpose transcends fear and despair. As the dust settled and the cries of victory echoed into the heavens, the hearts of the faithful overflowed with gratitude. They gazed upon a scene left in awe, a testament to the divine promises fulfilled amid trials. The remnants of Sodom's destruction had transformed into a rallying point, from ashes rose resilience and new life. In the aftermath, peace washed over Zor like the gentle rain after a storm. The faithful gathered not in mourning but in celebration, thanking their God who delivered them and opened the door for unimagined destinies. Lot stood tall amidst the throng, his faith renewed, declaring, "Look what our God has done. Through struggle comes life, through despair flows hope." Then the Lord spoke, confirming his promises once more, "From this remnant, nations shall rise, through your lineage shall salvation flow to all the earth. My covenant remains, and as I was with Abraham, so I am with you." As the sun dipped below the horizon, filling the sky with hues of orange and purple, the people of Zor lifted their hands, hearts aflame with newfound purpose. Life, once desolate, blossomed abundantly through their unity and faithfulness. The trials faced became stepping stones for generations to come, paving a path for those who would come to know the God of Abraham through the legacy of deliverance and redemption. And from that day forth, Lot and his daughters were known as pillars of faith in a new era, heralding the hope that emerged from the desolation, proclaiming the truth that God's promises are ever secure, stretching through time to touch the hearts of many. As you contemplate this sacred story, know that even in trials, God is weaving his perfect tapestry, crafting redemption out of every broken moment, filling your life with purpose, and inviting you to be part of his divine narrative. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word. Like this message to help spread biblical truth through the algorithm. Comment below with how this story has impacted your faith and share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth, and don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony as we are called to be vessels of his light in a world of darkness.